up. Thank you, Kevin. That's my tech guy in the background. I love having tech people in the background.
Want to continue?
I grew up in New York State, upstate New York, near Albany, and lived there until my 40s and wanted to get out of the snow and cold and moved to Tucson, Arizona. I had visited here with my partner and fell in love with the mountains here and just didn't want to leave. Lived here 20 years, and at that point I had been working in nonprofit organizations for 25 plus years, and I always had wanted my own business. I wanted to do something else, and there was a very strong creative side of me that hadn't come out yet, hadn't figured out how to come out. And I started doing container gardens around our house because I was very frustrated with trying to grow in the desert, in the ground first. And secondly, we had a landscape designer do a planting for us. And in the winter, it was all like deciduous, gone, dead, whatever. And I was like, I didn't move to Arizona to have nothing in the winter. You know, we're supposed to be able to garden 365 days a year, almost shortened our year. And so I started gardening in containers, and I had gorgeous flowers, and they would last all summer. They won't last the whole year, of course, but seasonally, and I had flowers all the time, doing great in pots. So I started a business called The Contained Gardener, and I designed, installed, and maintained container gardens for people's homes here in the desert and outdoor almost exclusively. So I grew that business for 15 years, 17 years. And I was doing gardens for a lot of homes and restaurants and a few other businesses, and a lot of patios for restaurants, and became a master gardener and just loved it. And the way I would explain it is that I got to design pretty things, creative side, right? Go shopping with other people's money, and then play in the dirt. And it was great. And so I sold the business in 2012. I actually became a business coach then, but I reserved all of the education and consulting rights to The Contained Gardener. I published a book with Getting Potted in the Desert, and continued with the Potted Desert, which is, if you go to my website, that I do a lot with desert gardening in pots, mostly floral, some cactus, a little bit of herbs and veggies. And so I do a lot of writing and speaking for all kinds of organizations, and just started with Element 3 Help for this program. And so we will have 4 weeks a month gardening classes. And because I specialize in pots, it will be mostly about pots. I want to do things on indoor plants and indoor outdoor, because I know a lot of people live in 2 climate seasons, kind of, sort of. And I forgot to tell you that I lived in Hawaii for 4 years also, between 20 years here in Tucson, 4 years then in Hawaii, and now I'm back permanently in Tucson, been back for a year. So it's going to be 112 today. So we're not too happy about that. So anyhow, today I wanted to talk about with you, and this is why I wanted you to be live and engaged. I want to talk with you about what holds us back from having the gardens we want, or what holds us back from gardening as much as we want, or anything. What holds us back? And what are we doing now? I want to understand what you as gardeners are doing for garden, because this Element 3 Helps programs are geared towards the older, mature adult. And so a lot of us, are going to be 60 plus. I certainly am. And as we get older, I find I've had to change how I garden and modify things, but also to just think, well, how much energy do I want to expand on gardening? There's a lot of other things I want to do. And so we actually moved into an executive golf course community here in Tucson. And I used to play golf, so I've started again. So that's a lot of fun, except on days like today, I don't want to go. So what I'd like you to do is, maybe we could, it's a small enough group that we could go around, and if you could very briefly tell me, like, what is your garden? Do you have indoor plants? Do you have outdoor landscape? Do you have, I don't know, like, Cindy, is that your garden behind you? You know, so just give me a sense of what kind of garden you have, and maybe take, a minute or two with that each. And may I choose Deanna to go first?
Sure. I am in an apartment as of right now. In a couple months, I'll be moving into a condo where I'll have my own screened-in porch and a little outside area. So I'm looking forward to reintroducing my flower pots that I had originally at my home. So right now I have, since the apartment stays on the dark side, which there is a lot of light that comes in, but no direct sunlight. So I have shade plants right now in pots, like on the windowsills, and they're doing well. But
Right.
I can't wait to get back into the flowering plants. I just love them so much. So that's about it. And the picture behind me actually is at a botanical garden in Lake Wales, Florida, which is about an hour from here, where I used to go all the time before I moved. And
Great.
it's extraordinary to go and tour those gardens. They have remarkable natural plants there, and it has quite a history. It dates way back, and actually the whole plot of land there in Lake Wales was donated by a gentleman.
And yeah,
They built this singing tower.
or you come and tell for
bells
me.
in the tower, and on the hour, every hour they play, the organist goes up and plays the bells. So it's quite nice being there through the day.
Great, great. Well, and when do you get to move to your condo?
I think probably August or September.
Okay, yeah, the house we bought is a townhome, so it's much less to take care of, and I have some similar things like what it sounds like you're saying, but I'm going to show you some pictures in a little while. So great, thank you. All right, Nora, how about you in Buckeye? Make sure you unmute, Nora. No, you still are muted. There you go.
Better. Okay. I do have some indoor plants, and our windows are tinted green, so a lot of light doesn't come through. So I just have like a snake plant, ZZ plant, some violets, a spider plant, anything that can deal with low light. But they grow very slow because the windows are greenish tint. So that's just kind of a downside there. But outside, we live in Sun City Festival, so it's a 55 and up community. We have to abide by the homeowner landscape, so we only can use certain types of plants, which is very typical, like lantana, birds of paradise, yucca, and oleanders and stuff like that. But I do have a Meyer lemon tree that I recently had to cover with a sheet because it burns.
Yeah.
Since it's like 100
Is it a
or
young
whatever.
tree or is it a mature tree?
It's about 3 years old.
Okay.
And it produces fruit twice a year, but this year had very small lemons, and I'm not sure why.
Probably
I would
because
like
of
to
the
have-
long summer we had last year.
Oh,
That
I
was
would
a
like to have
very
some
long
different
summer.
colorful plants besides lantana that I could plant in the yard.
Okay, and you're in the same kind of climate as Phoenix, right? Yeah, yeah. So you might want to come join me on the Potted Desert and get my emails from that. And if you just go to the website, potteddesert.com.
Okay, thanks.
So great. Well, good. And we could talk about, and I will be doing 1 week a month on desert container gardening. So on element 3. So you can come there too, because we'll talk about specific plants for your climate. Okay.
Okay, and I was interested in her herbs too.
Okay. Okay. Great. All right,
Okay.
Carol, can you unmute yourself and tell us
Yes,
your
I have to
story?
keep it muted because this is telemarketer heaven here. We get about 20 a day, so.
Oh,
We have a vegetable garden, but Roy takes care of that more than I do. I have a lot of succulents, different varieties of aloe vera. We've got a lot of snake plants. Matter of fact, I've got about 6 or 7 of them out there I need to replant because they've overgrown their pots. And I do mostly container gardening.
okay.
I don't have very many indoor plants because this place, it's just too dark in here for them in this house. I guess that's about it. That's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to be done here with that, but
Yeah,
Oh.
and you know, we were planting snake plants. We had a big flood in Hawaii where we were, and so we were getting volunteer snake plants from friends and planting them just to try to get something in the ground. And you know, you don't have to worry about them in that climate. So,
yeah,
and we were trying to make some screening from them, you know, and that kind of thing. So you know how it is in tropical climates where in our house plant might be like you think about a pothos and how that just sprawls, but it stays confined here and it becomes a tree in Hawaii. So with
Yeah.
leaves like this big, and I'm not exaggerating.
I
Okay, Carol,
spent
good. Good, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think I spent about a half a day transplanting things. I'm just gonna put them out in the front yard and say free plants.
Yeah. Oh, yes, yes, absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely. Great. Okay, well, welcome. So Bonnie, I'll swing around to you.
Sure, and I am in Syracuse, New York. It's a beautiful 70-degree day, no humidity
Right now.
right now. And I live in a townhouse. I am just trying plants. I have petunias, geraniums, and a couple of tomato plants given to me by friends. I know nothing. My husband of 35 years did all the outside work and I stayed inside. So now he passed and I am trying to do a few little plants, but I know nothing.
Okay, well, you know, everybody starts from somewhere.
Mhm.
And, you know, I think probably everyone here could tell a story of when they got started and what, because I didn't really garden until I was in Tucson. And so it's trial and error, but the more you talk to people and
Right.
get the hints and stuff, you know, what's interesting you'll learn is that what we plant in the winter here in the desert is what you're planting now.
Sure.
And so it's interesting. But if you take it one step at a time, don't try to go too large all at once. You'll get there. You'll get there.
Okay.
And we can talk about tomatoes. I think probably everybody here can talk about tomatoes, but we can help you with tomatoes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Cindy.
Yeah, thank you. I am at home. I have sitting in my pergola. I have 10 acres, so I have a wide variety. A lot of it is fir and cedar trees with gravel paths, lawns, 6 hours a week of mowing. But I have a vegetable garden that doesn't produce as much as I'd like. Everything I know is total trial and error. If something works, I keep doing more of it. And if it doesn't work, I stop doing that. That's all I know. I do have indoor plants. We're almost done. I'll show you building a greenhouse just through those doors.
Wow.
So I'm going to be able to start from seed, but I don't know anything about that either. So anything you want to cover. My biggest problems are so much rain and so much shade. We had a storm for 3 days that just ended last night. I'd forgotten I left a wheelbarrow out and I went to put it away, and after 2 or 3 hours it was full to the brim of water, and my roses get white powder mildew. And then there's so much shade that it's hard to find sunny spots. I do a
Right.
bunch of tree clearing. So those are my big things. But also
Where is
I've had
Tacoma?
houseplants for years. Pardon? It's next to Tacoma. Last week I
Okay.
said Tacoma just because people might have a better idea.
Yeah,
So I'm in between Tacoma and Mount Rainier, just a little bit higher elevation than Tacoma.
okay. So these
And
are saying
so
houseplants?
my plants, I don't know what I do those. I don't know what I'm doing with them. You know, I think it's like not consistent watering where it dries out and then too much and dries out and too much and then don't know how to fertilize right. Those kinds of questions.
All right, well, that leads me to a great plug. Next week's class is going to be on watering. And it'll be general principles of watering, anything from when it gets hot and dry, to shade, to indoor, to different kinds of plants and all of that. So everyone should try to come next week because we're going to do a lot about watering, because that is the number one thing with plants is the watering. So hopefully that will start to help Cindy and everyone else. All right, so Virginia, I muted you, so I'm going to ask you to unmute. I'm glad you have your assistant there.
Yeah, and she wants me to talk for her, so I'm gonna
Oh,
just
okay.
share our story. So yeah, so we live in California, so our biggest challenges here are, of course, long-term drought, and then we have pretty poor soil here. So we have a small vegetable garden in raised beds. So we grow squash, tomatoes, beans, beets. And then for flowering plants, we have roses and irises, mostly in containers.
Okay.
And then for house plants, the only house plants, because we have cats, and so we're always really nervous about things that they might chew on and get poisoned. So we have a plant, the only house plant we have is actually a kind of a tea leaf type plant that her mother, my mom's mother, my grandmother, had, and her aunt, well, my aunt, her sister, got a piece of it. My mom got a piece from her sister. And so this is sort of a generational plant, but it grows tall. And so we have to keep cutting it off because it hits the ceiling.
Right.
And so we have 4 of them now in the house, and one we gave to her granddaughter, my daughter. So it's continuing.
What color are the leaves?
They are green. Do they have any variegation, Mom?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit of variegation. So
Okay.
it's a bit of green.
It's like an elephant leaf.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not a
So-
tea plant. Well, she's going to go get something. All right, we're going to look at this. And that's one thing, anytime you come, if you have something that you can carry and want to bring it to show it on camera, to talk about it.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't know if that means anything.
is that of the Monstera family? I don't know. You know what? Hold on, bring it back. I know you're holding it. Just hang on a second. Okay, got it. Those are very, very healthy and doing very well. So those, I'd like one of those, but I don't know if you can send it to me. Virginia, what part of California are you in?
We're in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, you are, okay. So you've had droughts up there too, huh?
Oh, yes.
We
Okay.
had like 1 year of rain where everyone was so excited to get out of drought. And then this year we've had so little rain, we're back in drought again.
Wow.
So
Horrible. Okay. All right. So thank you very much. And what's your name, Virginia?
oh, my name's Jocelyn.
Jocelyn?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice to have you here, and thanks for, and you know, you guys can pull up a chair. You don't have to stand in the background. Okay, Wanda, welcome back.
Hey, I am in a house that I've been in for 25 years. And I hired a young man with a Jeep and a winch to come and pull all my shrubs out last year because I was tired of dealing with them. And they were old and they were just looking ratty. So this year I got 6 large plastic pots that I could manhandle. And I have a hibiscus and what do you call it? Milkweed and snapdragons in there. And we had a really, really horrible January here where it got down -40 in some parts of Texas, and it just doesn't do that. So everybody lost their Indian hawthorns, which I didn't have, but my son and daughter-in-law did. And so they had to have those ripped out and have redone their entire front. So I inherited 6 knockout roses. So half of those are in pots, half of them are in the ground. Believe it or not, they're growing, which I was shocked. So that's the front yard. In the backyard, I have raised beds, and I've got some onions going in one, and some other squash and stuff that I started too late. So they're not going to make it. I have 2 tomato plants, 1 cherry, 1 plum, and then my crazy flower garden. So a little bit of everything, but I would like some advice on more containers.
Okay.
Plant.
When you say extra large plastic pots, how big are they?
20 inches across. They're like this.
20 is
This
about
big.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're huge. I actually should have paid attention, and I got something quite that big.
Oh, it's too big for you. The 20 is good because it gives, especially in Texas, because when it gets hot, you need that extra soil to insulate the roots, because the soil holds the moisture and that keeps them cooler. And so I recommend any place where you're in any heat, especially dry and hot climates, that the smallest pot you use is 20 inches. So I'm very happy that they're 20.
Well, let me tell you what I did.
Okay.
I got these containers, and I knew I was going to have to deal with them on my own. And I looked online, and they said that you could fill like the bottom third or so with some plastic.
Yep.
Well, I did like plastic bottles, and I did peanuts. So all of them have got soil about halfway down, about, I'd say, a foot or so deep, and then the 20 inches around.
And for what you're planting, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. And that's a question I get asked all the time. Do I need to fill the whole pot with soil? And it really, every question you ask me will start with it depends. And because it depends what you're going to plant in them. So if you had, somebody had the Meyer lemon tree, which we might put in a pot if it's a dwarf. And first of all, it would never go in a 20-inch pot. It would need a larger pot. And because it's a tree, it needs all of that volume of soil to hold the roots so that it doesn't tip the whole thing over. And so it does have enough water, food, and place for the roots. So that's why I say it depends, that you think about what is going in the pot and how much root room do I need for the long term, depending if it's an annual or perennial, all of these kinds of things. So I'm glad you got 20-inch, and it's fine that you filled it. And did you put all of the plastic into a bag or anything, or are they just in there?
No, it's just loose. And I've also had an issue. We've had so much rain that the containers were waterlogged. And so I have to tip them over. Unless
Do they have drainage holes in them?
Supposedly they do, because they're self-watering.
Okay, well, I know you're good at sharing pictures, so if you want to send me a picture sometime
Sure.
of the pot, I'd like just to see it. And that's it. For anybody who wants to email me, I'm going to put it in the chat, but it's just gardening@element3health.com. And that's where you can reach me any waking hours. Of course, time zones are different. So Deanna's going to be writing me at 5 in the morning my time because she's up at 8. So, all right. So, so we've already taken a lot of time. And what I'm looking through my list. Let me show you some pictures first, just so you kind of have a handle. I'm just going to show you some of my indoor. Let me just preface this. In previous homes in New York State, I mostly had indoor plants and larger indoor plants. And so things that were in pots of 16 to 20 inch size pots and low light kind of plants. And I didn't know very much then at all. And, I was a working professional, so I didn't have time to even think about gardening. I was renting my whole life. And so I just wasn't into gardening. It was really when we moved to Arizona that I got into gardening. And then I wanted to garden outside. And as I already told you, I got into container gardening. And at one point, before we sold our last house here in Tucson, I had over 50 pots. And I would say of those 50, 45 were 24 inches and larger. So they were large container gardens. And I had Mexican lime trees and combination plantings with shrubs, perennials, and flowers. I wanted color. So when we moved here, it's a townhome. We have critters. They can't get in the backyard, but something has gotten in there and eaten things. So I'm very careful of what I'm planting. And we did see a raccoon on the wall. So we don't know if maybe, that's not normal for them, but he could have gotten inside there and decided to just nibble on some things. And we also want easy care. I don't want to spend my whole day gardening. And but we have this atrium off the guest bath. So you should be able to see now and to see this picture. So if you come into the bathroom, there's sliding doors here, and it's a very narrow but L shape that comes over this way and this way. And somebody speak up, just somebody say, yes, I see this.
Yes, beautiful.
Okay, great. So it's exceedingly hot out there now. If it's 110 outside in the real world, it'll be 3 to 5 degrees even hotter in here. And of course, with the white walls, a lot of reflected heat. And so there was this bush that was only about 1.5 feet high when we bought the house. And I think from expectations, I thought it was a rose bush. And I didn't even think twice. I said, oh, isn't that nice? We have a rose bush. And I posted it in my gardening group on Facebook. And somebody says, Mary Lee, that's a bougainvillea. And I'm like, oh my goodness, boy, did I put my foot in my mouth. And so it wasn't doing anything last year when we moved in, which was May. And it wasn't growing. I watered it. It wasn't happy. And so I said, fine, die. And we had some contractors here and they kind of trampled it. So I was like, fine, die. And I just left it alone. Well, it started growing and I didn't water it. And so there's another picture where you'll really see how it's coming along, but it's doing great. But anyhow, so I have a lot of bright light and no direct light, but very bright light coming into the bathroom here. This orchid, the I don't know what color, fuchsia, kind of dark fuchsia color orchid here, that is regrowing from an orchid I had earlier this year. And so there's enough light for the orchids to rebloom, which coming now from Hawaii is great. And I'll have another picture here and I'll show you what this kind of weird looking thing is here. So here's the orchids, and this one's on its last legs. This one we got from Fry's. We do all curbside pickup on our food, and we got it from Fry's, and it's a chartreuse green. And it lasted 3 months with blooms, and so this last one is failing. And here's a close up on that one. And then I have this very narrow plant stand to put things on. And I have, this is one pot with 2 coleus in it, and you really can't see the colors. I have it here so I can try to show you. And then these are orchids that have completed their bloom and now they're growing, and hopefully we'll start sending out a stalk soon. And then this, I've got to change this because this is not doing well. There's actually a thyme and an oregano in here, and they just aren't happy. And I think I squeezed the roots in too small of a pot. And once it cools off a little bit, I'm gonna get that out into the raised bed out back. And then this is a trailing cherry tomato. And I've got this light over it, trying to make it do something. And it started growing some more. We had one tomato off of it, and tiny little thing, but it was good. And then I had a Gerbera daisy in here in my office on the windowsill, and decided to put it in here just to see what it would do. And it's got new leaves, which is nice to see. So we'll see if this tomato, I just don't think it's getting enough light, even though there's a lot of bright light. And that's why I added this light to it, to see if it would do any better. And so I'm learning here by trial and error. You don't even see it, but there is behind this orchid, there's a basil, which is started to grow again. So it's mostly dirt and one sprig of basil. So here's the Gerbera and then the tomato plant. And then this is the bougainvillea, and we put these
Wow.
trellises up of bubbles. They're called bubbles, and it was funny because as soon as we had the trellises put up, it was like it was reaching over for them, and so it's doing great. And what I've done is I've strung invisible, it's not fishing wire, but invisible thread. I forget what it's called. It's that plastic thread that you can't see. That's why it's invisible. And I've strung that down, and then I take some twining tape and connect to it from the branches, so that it has a guide to come, but you don't even see any of the twine up here. So it's kind of like, it really looks like it's happening naturally, which is nice. And then okay, so remember I said that was an L shape. And so as you come across here, then here's the other part of the L, and now this is indoors. So this is a windowsill indoors. And this is a solar screen rolling shutter that comes down off the living room windows from this atrium, because that sun really beats in there in the morning, and then there's all reflected heat in the afternoon from this wall. So this is and I don't know if it's pronounced Kalanchoe or Kalanchoe, but that's what this is. What do you guys say?
Kalinko.
Kalika? Really?
Kalinko. Kalinko.
Wow, I'm gonna have to Google that, because I had never heard that. But I had bought these 3 succulents at a local nursery months and months and months ago, and planted them in here. And this is tumbled glass in the red. And what I'm so pleased with is that this is a second bloom. So this went through its bloom, and just as I was cutting off the dead blooms, I saw the new buds coming. So it obviously likes this environment. I water it every 2 weeks. And in another class, I'm going to cut this branch back and repot it. So we'll be doing some things on succulents in future classes, but I'm letting this grow. There's a lot of other branches here. So once this goes, it'll balance the shape of the pot again. And you'll find I'm kind of an organized gardener. I like things not formal or snooty or something, but I like it more organized. I'm not somebody who likes a crazy garden with every color in the world. One of my members of my Seriously Potted group gardens that way purposely, and we've decided that we each can have our style. So this shows you that atrium, and now it comes around, and we decided we're not going to try to plant anything else out there. I may hang some baskets out here in the winter, and then I'd be able to take them in if we get a freeze. And so I think I'll probably do that. And then this is not my atrium. This is just a plant. I think someone said they have a ZZ in their home. And this, if you have dark spaces, are not good at watering, and want something easy care, the ZZ is a wonderful, wonderful plant from South Africa that I would highly recommend.
Could you spell that, Mary Lee?
ZZ. There's
Oh,
a longer name for
okay.
it, but everywhere you find it, it'll say ZZ. And if you have any nursery or even big box nursery, If they have a good indoor plant section, they should have them. Back years ago, when I first was introduced to them, it was hard to find, but it no longer is. It's become very popular.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. And they, if you garden with them outdoors, first they're very frost tender, like 50 degrees. They need to come inside and no, not in the sun. Okay, just so you know.
Okay.
Is that growing light on your tomato and daisy? Yes. The growing light is there. So, so I think what I'd like to do is just take the last few minutes. And many of you said, you know, your problem and stuff. But if you think about what you've got, and I know like Deanna's moving to a new home soon, and she probably will have to figure it out exactly what she wants to do. But if you were to set a goal for something different happening in your gardening world for this year, what might that be? And maybe you could even write it into the chat. And then that way I have a recording of it and I don't have to write it all down. So just what was something you'd like to have different in your garden, your gardening world, indoor, outdoor, anything, before the end of the year? Did I see 3 so far? I see Cindy, Bonnie, and Wanda. Does anyone need me to write anything for you? Everybody found the chat, right? Virginia, you doing okay? Okay. Need more time to take care of it. All right, Carol, I can't do anything about that. Yeah, you've got quite the challenge there with everything you have going on. Several of you have very large gardens, and I hope that there's helpers who can help with that. Lantana, colorful bush that does well in the heat. Nora, you know, that's one of the things. Sometime I have to do more of showing what we did in the backyard, because we have it's 47 feet across, and it's only about, I don't even know if it's 20 feet deep. It might be. And there's a big lemon tree and a big grapefruit tree, and the whole back wall was covered with an oleander bush that in full sun with water had 2 sections that had a few blooms on all last year. So we had it taken out because we don't want to have to care for oleander. Kind of like, who was it that said, was it Cindy who said you had all those shrubs taken out, or was it one? Somebody said they had wanted all those shrubs taken out. And so we've done a lot of planting, and because I don't want to have to work as hard, but we want color in the winter. We planted some of the plants that look fine now, but they'll look even better in the winter because they turn shades of red, like your fire sticks pencil cactus. And of course, then that makes that extremely low water. And then I put in, and anybody, any zone can put this in, but the golden euonymus, I can spell that. And because that's variegated, it's a shrub that's variegated, I can't talk and spell this at the same time. There we go. And so you've got this yellow with a little green, and now in the heat, there's a little white in there, but those two even near each other do really, really well color-wise. And then even though I don't like Nandina, AKA Heavenly Bamboo, that is a beautiful red in the winter. And so it's another shrub that you could even use as a background shrub. And there's different heights depending which species or which variety you get. But that can be a background where it's a little bit of red and green in the summer, and then it turns the red in the winter. So really nice. And Texas, that Nandina, I think all zones pretty much have grown Nandina. Fire sticks, I would be concerned if you have a colder winter. But the euonymus and the Nandina, I know somebody said that I think they were from Minnesota and they had Nandina all over their landscape. So I just don't like it here because I feel like it's a fallback plant for landscapers when there's so many other options. And if it's not kept nicely with some grooming and some and water, then it just doesn't look that great. And I'm like, well, why is sticking nothing in? And the leaves are small. And so, you know, if you've got a large area, you don't want this small leaf plant that's kind of like, what's it doing? You know, how is it performing for you? And whereas the euonymus, the leaves are more rounded and they're clusters of leaves, and you can look it up or I'll show you in a picture of it sometime. So, all right, so we got, I don't think everybody wrote down a goal. So if you're not sure or you want to say it to me privately, you could always email me. But I'd like to know what people want to do because that's how I can help you the best. And except for giving Carol more time. See, what I would say, where I have to find Carol, so I talk to you directly. Oh, yeah, that we often need to see how much we are going to take on. You know, because if we don't have time to take care of it all, then maybe some things we could just let go of and give it to the neighbors and keep the things that really are meaningful to us. You know, that's one thing you have to decide. Here, we're going to do the raise hand thing. I always say that people are either a rescuer or a thrower in the garden. So if you have a plant that's not doing that great, do you want to rescue it? So raise your hand if you're a rescuer. You can either do it this way or that way. So a lot of rescuers. And that's important to know because if you're a rescuer, you're probably not going to throw away any plant. And that's where the time element comes in because rescuing plants takes even more time. And I always felt, especially because I deal a lot with flowers, that if something's not doing well, I'm not going to take my time to try to rescue it when it costs me far less than a bouquet of fresh flowers from the florist. And so why am I keeping this thing? And it's my own personal belief. The other thing is when we lived here 20 years and all the freezes we would have, it was like, oh, forget it, survival of the fittest. And if you can't make it through the freeze and you die, okay, I'm sorry. But who was it that had the Meyer lemon? Okay, so we have a new tango mandarin orange tree and a new limequat tree, and I've covered them because they are totally getting burned. And I'm hoping that in future years we won't have to, but once the foliage and the tree is large enough, the outer canopy may get burned, but the inner canopy won't as long as it has enough water. So hang in there and maybe sometimes send me a picture of the tree if you want. And then I know what I'm talking about, you know, because I said it all depends. So that's past the end here, but I've been having fun talking and I hope that's okay with you guys. And always let me know what you need. If you have a class you want me to do, you just recommend it to me, that's great. And because, you know, we could be together as often as you want, up to 4 times a month. So like I said, next week's class is on watering. And I believe that the following week's class is, oh, okay, don't have that one up yet, because then we go, then 7-1, I don't think I'm doing. So we'll probably do something again on general container gardening in July, the first one in July. I just have to double check the schedule because I'd taken a week off around that holiday weekend. So yeah. So is there any final questions or comments anyone would like to make before we say goodbye for the day? Oh, I didn't show you my plants. I'm sorry. Wait a second. If you have to go, I understand. I know many of you have many other things going on. So where am I? There I am. Okay. So this is the one I was showing you with the flowering. I can't say the word person who did, but I'll call it calendula until I look it up. And it's in this heavy ceramic, very narrow pot. So it goes on the windowsill of the atrium. And then this is the coleus, 2 coleus. I have to get this other one out of the way. So there are 2 coleus here, that one, and then that one. And I have always said that you don't let coleus bloom because it's going through its life cycle if you allow it to bloom. And so it would bloom, produce seed, therefore reproduce. And then its message to it is to die. And, but this flower on here, I don't know if you can really see it, right there in the center. And in real life, it's lavender. And it's a very tight flower. I actually took the first one I saw off because I was living by my rule. And then I saw this one. I was like, well, it's really pretty. So just let me see. The plant's healthy. Let me see how it goes. And so, you know, with them hybridizing the coleus so much, I don't know if they have made them so that they aren't so death oriented when they flower. So we'll see. But I'll keep you apprised of what's happening with them. So, oh, and this one, just to tell you, I'm not perfect. That I was trying to propagate. This is from a red tip Photinia bush, and I put the root hormone on, which I usually wouldn't use, and it's dead. So I cleaned this pot out, and it's going to become the new pot for that succulent that I'll replant when I cut it. So we'll see that. And then this little one, this is another coleus that I keep on my windowsill here in the office. Because this is eastern facing, it gets a little direct sun, but then just bright light, not as bright as the atrium. And just a very small pot. This is a 5-inch, I think, pot. And so that stays here so that I have it to look out from my view right here. So, yes, and thank you, Cindy, I appreciate that. And so hopefully I'll see many of you next week. And like I said, feel free to email me if you'd like to connect or send me pictures. And then if, like I said, if you have any kind of plant that you want to bring to class anytime, doesn't matter what, if it matches the subject or not, feel free. And, you know, I may not have the answer, but we'll get it. Okay. So you have a great, what day is today? Thursday, right?
Mhm.
So we're almost to the weekend. If that matters to you, some of people, doesn't matter, day is a day, but have a good one. And if you're hot, stay cool. And Syracuse and other wonderful climates, enjoy your weather.
Thank you.
And send all of us drought people some rain, please.
Yes, please.
Okay.
All
Will
right.
do.
So everyone take care, and thanks, Kevin, in the background, where we are over and done. Take care, and I hope to
you.
see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.